Over the past few years, several millionaires who built their fortunes on cryptocurrency have been murdered. Was it just a tragic coincidence, or do these deaths have something in common? The world of cryptocurrency is a volatile market where you can both make and lose millions of dollars. Many people, including experienced hackers, have tied their lives to this livelihood, hoping to get their tidbit of the pie. This video will talk about 3 high-profile crimes that have occurred around the world. 3 people involved in the cryptocurrency industry have fallen victim to forces operating in the dark, and their stories will really make you think about the value of life. When it comes to the world of cryptocurrency, the first thing everyone talks about is financial security and the fact that you can not only make a lot of money with it, but also lose a lot of money. However, no one talks about the fact that by messing with the complex world of cryptocurrency, you can lose the most precious thing: your life. The first crime occurred in Argentina, officially known as the Argentine Republic. This is a large country with a population of more than 47 million people. Statistics show that not as many crimes occur here as in the rest of South America, but locals claim that many criminals simply avoid punishment, which, of course, distorts all statistics. Thus, official sources claim that the country is relatively safe. But what 2 children discovered on July 23, 2023 clearly contradicts this claim. Southwest of downtown Buenos Aires is a small neighborhood known as Ingeniero Bush, which is less than 10 square miles in size. The neighborhood consists of many houses, several parks, and a couple of nature preserves. The kids often play soccer in this neighborhood, and that day they went to the playing field again. On their way there, a couple of teenage boys came across an unremarkable suitcase. They usually played by the creek but had never seen a suitcase before, so after noticing it, they were curious about what was inside. Upon examining the suitcase, they made a truly shocking discovery. Inside the suitcase were the dismembered remains of a white male in his 40s. His limbs had been neatly cut off and his head and torso were missing. The young men immediately called the authorities. Police officers arrived on the scene as soon as possible, cordoned off the area, and began an investigation. Investigators determined that the suitcase contained the victim's legs and left forearm, and after a short search, the entire right arm was found nearby. All of the body parts had been carefully amputated, suggesting that whoever had done this was a professional. Naturally, it was not initially clear who was the victim of such a brutal crime, but investigators were able to quickly identify the dead man. The tattoo of the man, consisting of 4 letters and located on one of the victim's hands, helped in the identification. Thus, it was determined that the body belonged to a man named Fernando Perez Algaba, who had disappeared from the city just 4 days before the gruesome discovery. A little later, fingerprint analysis confirmed his identity. After his death, various unusual details about his life and how he died surfaced. But one thing in particular caught the public's attention, and that was that Fernando was a crypto millionaire. It seemed that Fernando was quite a popular person. He had almost 1 million followers on Instagram, and in his profile he showed his luxurious lifestyle that he achieved with the help of cryptocurrency and smart solutions, which he actively told his followers about. But in fact, the number of likes under his posts suggests that this number of followers was simply bought. In his profile description, Fernando wrote, "Tell me what you brag about and I'll tell you what you're missing. Life doesn't owe you anything, and he who has magic doesn't need tricks." According to local media reports, Fernando did not come from a wealthy family, and he had been trying to make money since he was a child. First, he sold sandwiches and delivered pizzas, and then he got into buying, repairing, and reselling cars. When Fernando was a little over 20 years old, he got into cryptocurrency and got rich dramatically by investing in selling crypto tokens and other securities. By the time he turned 24, he already had an entire inventory of his own high-end cars. In an interview, Fernando said, "I started with a $100,000 investment and doubled my profits in just 4 days. I learned it as best I could, and a little later, I opened my office with 25 traders and realized that my previous mistakes were only due to a weak psyche." Most of Fernando's Instagram posts were pictures of his expensive cars, as BMW, Porsche, Bentley, Mercedes, and Range Rover, as well as his favorite dog named Yamas. All this was interspersed with photos of him in expensive clothes and with expensive watches, as well as photos from his travels. At some point, Fernando moved from Argentina to the United States, where he opened several companies at once, including a jet ski rental business that was set up in Miami. A few months before his death, Fernando decided to move to Spain and would occasionally return to Argentina to take care of family or business matters. But unfortunately, something terrible happened to him after his last return, and now his body has been found in a river in the form of many fragments. Just 3 days after the discovery of Fernando's body, police officers were informed of a new frightening find. Another local resident had stumbled upon a human torso, and after investigating the scene, detectives soon discovered a human head in a backpack nearby. It was quickly determined that both the head and torso belonged to Fernando. According to autopsy reports, the man died due to 3 gunshot wounds to the chest, but some media outlets claim it was 2 shots to the back. It is from this point that the cause of Fernando's death begins to become clearer. It turns out that the man had many enemies who, in fact, had every right to be angry with him. When detectives began to scrutinize Fernando's life, they were able to establish that although he was a crypto millionaire, he had numerous debts to several people and organizations. We are talking about several $100,000s worth of debts that Fernando owed not only to ordinary people, but also to entire gangs. In addition, when examining the man's phone and laptop, police found more than 200 angry messages, so it was obvious that the man had made a lot of people very angry. One such message read, "I'm going to take your life. I'm going to gouge out your eyes and cut off your hands so you don't have any more money. I swear on my children, I'm not afraid to go to jail." The message was written by a man named Iglesias, to whom Fernando owed more than $70,000. Another man named Adrian sent Fernando a voicemail message saying he was going to cut off his head and that he had embezzled money that belonged to him. Both of these men were in no way connected to the local gang to whom Fernando owed over $40,000, although the gang is a far worse enemy to make. In addition, Fernando also failed to pay taxes in Argentina and also owed the state a large sum of money. A fact, incidentally, that has led some to speculate that it may have been the work of insiders. According to central bank records, one of his businesses, called SEPA, received 7 canceled checks totaling more than 2.5 million pesos, the equivalent of $150,000 US dollars or 120,000 British pounds. Fernando also had more than 25 criminal convictions on his record, including drunk driving and assaulting a police officer. Shortly before his death, Fernando recorded a video on his phone saying that he had lost a lot of money investing in cryptocurrency and that if anything happened to him, he had already warned his loved ones about it. And a few weeks before his death, Fernando published encrypted messages in which he alluded to deception, betrayal, threats, and even murder. In one such video, Fernando filmed himself in a car while there was audio in the background that said, "It's unbelievable that there are such evil people in the world that while you're thinking about how to help them, they're thinking about how to destroy you." In another post, he wrote, "Never trust anyone who hasn't proven their loyalty." End of story. Shortly before his death, Fernando also sent his mother a voicemail message in which he said, "Hi, Mom. I went out to clear my head, as always, and I realized 2 things. I can't run away from my problems, and they will always haunt me." On July 13th, Fernando wrote his landlord and told him he would be out of the house by July 19th. When the landlady never heard back from him after that, and when she went to the apartment and saw his belongings there, she reported his disappearance to the police. Thus, the police initially assumed that the man had been kidnapped during that period of time. It was only after examining the suitcase in which Fernando's limbs were found that police officers discovered several documents pertaining to a family living in the area. A search warrant was then issued for that house, and during the search, a local transgender woman named Nicole Almo Chamorro was arrested. It was confirmed that Fernando did indeed owe money to Nicole, so it was not strange that the police officers assumed that she had taken Fernando's life to settle a score. In putting forward this theory, the investigators also clarified that if Nicole really did it, she would not have done it without outside help. However, the trial has yet to begin, although many believe that Nicole was still involved in Fernando's death. Even almost a year later, authorities have remained silent about the case. But things may be changing dramatically in the future. The investigation is ongoing, and it is likely that the unraveling will be unpredictable. The next crime occurred 5,000 meters north of Argentina's cities and jungles, in the Ozarks, a physiographic region that encompasses several states. These include Aransas and Missouri, where the main events of this crime took place. On May 21, 2023, a doctor and crypto millionaire named John Forsyth disappeared without a trace. John was a 49-year-old man with a very successful and promising life. Growing up with 5 sisters and a brother, he was known as a happy and enthusiastic person since childhood. He studied math at university, but ended up becoming a doctor and started his practice at Mercy Hospital in Cassville, Missouri. For most of his adult life, John has led the most conventional lifestyle. He married his wife in 1995 before divorcing her in 2019, and although they remarried in 2020, they were divorced again by April 2022. During their relationship, they had 7 children together, and it appears that despite the divorce, family relations were good and amicable. After a divorce trial, John was ordered to pay $4,000 per month in child support, plus an additional $15,000 per month for other expenses. In fact, John could afford these payments as he was not only a respected doctor, but also a crypto millionaire. John Forsyth was one of the first to start making money from cryptocurrency. He managed to get Bitcoin in 2012, when the currency was still very cheap, and John managed to keep it going despite the peaks and downturns. John also co-founded Ono Coin, a referral-based cryptocurrency project dubbed the People's Currency. He has also made tangible contributions to the development of blockchain technology and decentralized finance, making him a respected figure in the cryptocurrency community. It is worth noting that John had a very good reputation. All the people around him commented on how generous and helpful he was. This went well with his main profession as a doctor, and also meant that he was always ready to help his family and was a great father to his children. In addition, it's also worth pointing out that John didn't suffer much from the divorce. By then, he had already fallen in love with another woman named Laura Barnett, who also worked at the hospital. Not only were they engaged, but they were also expecting a child together, and John was over the moon about it. According to his brother, he was happier at the time than he had ever been in years. Given how busy John's life was, it was not strange that he shared not everything that was going on in his life with his entourage. For example, he managed to skillfully hide from his friends and family the details of what was going on with his crypto business. The man seemed truly happy and content with what was going on in his life. But it all came crashing down in an instant when he disappeared. On Sunday, May 21, 2023, it became apparent that something was wrong when John didn't show up for his shift at the hospital. The man had worked there for 15 years, and never once had he failed to show up for his shift without notifying anyone in advance. That is why his disappearance immediately became a matter of concern for his coworkers and loved ones. At the time of his disappearance, John was living in a trailer that was parked right next to the hospital where he worked, so trivial traffic jams could not be an excuse for his delay. John's entourage sounded the alarm, and soon the police arrived at his trailer. They found that the trailer was unlocked, but the man was not inside. At the same time, he had left 5 of his cell phones and a laptop in the trailer. It wasn't until 2 days later that investigators were able to find his black Infiniti sedan abandoned near Cassville Water Park. Inside the car were found his car keys, John's passport, and his briefcase. In addition, it was obvious that the car had been parked in a secluded area to make it as difficult as possible to spot. The police were able to obtain CCTV footage from the vicinity of John's trailer. Thus, it was found that at around 7 a.m. on the day of his disappearance, John was heading towards the trailer while texting his fiancée. Based on these messages, it seemed that John was happy, and to top it off, he wrote that he would be seeing her soon and was looking forward to it. Unfortunately, it was just about this time that he stopped contacting and replying to messages. From other CCTV cameras near the water park, footage was obtained that shows John pulling up to the water park at 7:12 a.m., and 10 minutes later, a white SUV pulled up and parked next to him. John then briefly got into the white SUV and then got out of it, and that vehicle drove away. After that, for another 10-15 minutes, John was seen walking around the parking lot for the next 10-15 minutes. At some point, the man walked away from his vehicle and was never seen again. Various search services have been involved in the search for John, with a park in a radius of about 9 miles being searched using people, dogs, and drones in an attempt to find the man. John's family also set up a Facebook page where they appealed for people to point out any information on John's whereabouts. Unfortunately, just 9 days later, it was revealed that the worst thing John's loved ones feared so much had happened. On May 30th, 2023, 2 men were kayaking on Beaver Lake, located 20 miles south of Arkansas. It was there that they came across John's body floating in the water, and it was quite obvious that he had been dead for quite some time. Police officers immediately went to the scene. Authorities announced to the media that the man had died from a gunshot wound, but they did not specify who had shot him or what area of his body, or whether John could have done this to himself. The case still remains unsolved. The Benton County coroner confirmed that an autopsy has been completed, but he also said the results will not be released until the investigation is complete. This news deeply shocked John's family and loved ones. His brother, fiancé, and ex-wife were shocked by what happened, but they are certain that the man was the victim of a violent crime. John's brother revealed that there was no way the man would have missed his shift at the hospital, and that's why they were immediately worried. And it was obvious to them that John was happy and wouldn't take his own life. And John's fiancée revealed that he was the love of her life, and now she will have to raise their child alone, which of course is an ordeal. This tragedy has a lot of people asking questions and speculating of their own, given that the authorities have not commented on the investigation in any way. People are asking questions such as, why was John killed? Or maybe he did it himself. Or maybe the person John spoke to shortly before his death knows what really happened. What is known is that he met up with an unknown man in a white SUV and then left the camera surveillance himself, where something horrible happened to him. The investigation revealed that the man did indeed have enemies. For example, in 2022, John was even kidnapped by unknown people in masks, which was confirmed by his brother. That time, John was tied up, taken to a bridge, threatened for a while, and then simply released. The man did not report the incident to the police because he felt he was in constant danger. John carefully concealed this incident from his surroundings. Even his brother learned about it only after his death from the words of his best friend. John himself said that he didn't know why he was kidnapped, but was sure it had something to do with cryptocurrency. Given the attitude of the authorities, it is clear that the police do not believe that John could have been the victim of a crime, even though his family strongly rejects the version that he took his own life. John was a happily successful and ambitious man who would never accept defeat or think about death. However, it is worth noting that John transferred large sums of money to his family shortly before his death, which raises a legitimate question. Did he really know what was about to happen? Did he know that someone was following him? Or did he really decide to leave this world on his own? On the other hand, John proposed to Laura just 3 days before he disappeared, and this behavior is clearly not what people do when they plan to voluntarily pass away. Besides, the man knew his fiancée was pregnant and was a responsible and caring person and simply could not have done such a thing. Apart from that kidnapping, other enemies of the man also came to light. Several people tried to hack into his computer, intending to harm him. Perhaps it was they who decided to go even further and take John's life. The investigation itself is also filled with inconsistencies. When John's family asked the investigators how they identified him, they replied that they simply recognized him by sight. In addition to this, the results of the forensic examination have never been made public, and there appear to be no leads in the ongoing investigation. This case seems incredibly suspicious and confusing, but it is worth realizing that police officers generally know much more than they reveal, and are doing so to increase the chances of catching the real culprit. Like the previous crime, this case is shrouded in mystery, and its investigation continues to this day. John's family is desperately fighting for the right to know the truth and get justice, but so far it looks as if the official investigation is not to be trusted. The next and final crime in this video took place on the Caribbean island of Puerto Rico. With a population of 3.2 million and a great climate, the Caribbean island of Puerto Rico attracts many tourists from around the world every year. Its unique position as an unincorporated U.S. territory also means that many wealthy Americans are interested in transacting on the island to reduce the amount of tax they must pay. This fact in no way determines anyone's guilt in this crime, but it played a crucial role in what happened. In 2022, 29-year-old Nikolai Mushegian spent most of his time between his home in Florida and the island of Puerto Rico. He was born in Russia, but he and his family moved to the United States when he was very young. Nikolai attended Carnegie Mellon University, where he graduated in 2014. During his time at university, he developed a keen interest in technology and finance, which eventually led him to cryptocurrency. Like the other victims of the crimes described above, Nicholas was a major player in the world of cryptocurrency. The fact is that Nikolai was one of the first developers of MakerDAO and played a key role in the development of stable coin systems. These stable coins are designed to minimize the volatility typically associated with cryptocurrency. This technology is much better suited for everyday transactions and financial applications. Nikolai's actions were entirely for a good cause. He advocated for a more transparent and decentralized system. He was recognized as an influential developer who was trying to change the world around him. Being one of the first developers in the field and co-founder of the MakerDAO company, Nikolai was indeed very rich in his early 20s. For example, he donated about $1 million to the university he attended, owned several properties in Florida and Puerto Rico, including a huge house on the island estimated to be worth $6 million or 5 million British pounds. That house had panoramic windows overlooking the lake, had a swimming pool, fresh renovations, and an outdoor kitchen with a grill and a beautiful fireplace. Nicholas was a very disciplined, calm, and kind man. In addition, he was very intelligent and never took hasty action without careful thought. However, about a month before his tragic death, it was obvious that something was going on with him. Whether it was the realization that his affairs were not going well, or whether it was just plain paranoia. But Nikolai was certain that his life was in danger. This was indicated by several facts from the guy's behavior. For example, shortly before his death, he broke up with his girlfriend, but for no obvious reason at all. He was sure that she was a spy working for a criminal organization. In addition, he claimed that his ex-girlfriend had even tampered with his laptop to make Nikolai look like an enemy of the CIA. But what caused the young man to start believing such a story? In fact, this is where the account of his death becomes most confusing. On September 5th, 2022, Nikolai wrote a Twitter post in which he claimed to see only 3 possible outcomes. Either he would take his own life because of him, or the CIA would damage his brain and make him a slave, or the worst thing imaginable to the human brain would happen to him. In his latest post, Nicholas wrote, "The CIA, Mossad, and the pedo elite are running some sort of sex trafficking ring, setting up provocations and blackmail outside of Puerto Rico and the Caribbean. They're going to frame me with a laptop computer planted by my ex-girlfriend who turned out to be a spy. They're going to torture me to death." Just 4 hours after this publication, Nikolai Mushegian was found dead. He drowned in the ocean near his home. While it does look like he was taken from his life, officials from the Puerto Rico Police Department's homicide unit said they believe there are several factors in this investigation that point to Nicholas taking his own life. That seems suspicious, but as 7 confirmed that Nicholas's mental condition had been deteriorating for months before his death. They said that they did allow for the possibility that Nicholas had simply reached a tipping point and couldn't handle the stress. In addition, his friends in the cryptosphere also described him as a brilliant but troubled man. But what really happened to Nikolai? Was he the victim of a violent crime or his own paranoia? It's worth noting that the young man's body was found in the waters near Ashforth Beach, which is notorious for its dangerous cliffs and strong currents. This beach, moreover, had warning signs posted on it, which, however, had been washed away by a hurricane just 2 months earlier, putting many uninformed tourists at risk. Still, Nikolai wasn't a tourist. He'd lived there long enough to know the dangers, and besides, there was no sign that he was going surfing or swimming before he died. But why was he in the water then? Given the posts he published shortly before his death, It's likely that he may have had some sort of mental breakdown. He may have thrown himself into the water, drowned, and then been dumped on the shore of Ashforth. The police have evidence for this theory, but they have not released the details to the public. All the investigation material is known only to Nicholas's family. Whatever it was, the C6 Millie is certain that it was directly linked to a relapse in his mental health. At the moment, the investigation into Nikolai's death is considered officially closed, and the cause of death is considered an accident or possible self-inflicted death. Even though Nikolai's loved ones have agreed with the results of the investigation, many people still believe that he may have been a victim of something he wrote about in his posts shortly before his death. And so, 3 crypto-millionaire deaths happened in one goal, and the circumstances are still shrouded in mystery. While Fernando could indeed have been victimized by people he owed large sums to, and Nicholas could have failed to deal with his mental state, John's death does raise a lot of questions. Are these deaths connected, or is it a common coincidence? At the moment, there is no answer to this question, and one can only make up one's own conjectures.